Hello, Starshine. My name is Liz, and this is my channel, Simsational Stories. If you have not seen my videos before, and you enjoy this one, please like and subscribe, and maybe check out my other social media as well. I'm on both Facebook and Twitter. All relevant links are in the description below, and of course, if you're a Sims player and you'd like to download any of my characters, just search the hashtag Simsational Stories on the Sims 4 gallery. All original content is created by This Is Not Eric. Finally, before I begin my Simsational story, I'd like to issue this blanket content and trigger warning. The following story is just Sims, hey. I'm not going to apologise for treating them terribly, if that's what I've done. But I do want to assure you now that although I mean absolutely no harm, I completely understand if you feel unable to consume my content. Many loves, and we will catch each other on the internet elsewhere. Okay, so now we've gotten that over with. Let's go. Today's story is from Conservationist Kaiulani of Sulani, and we're at chapter 6. If you have not seen previous chapters and would like to catch up, there are playlists available on my channel so you can hear the entire story in chronological order. The rest of us are going to move on from where we left off last time though. So without further ado. Conservationist Kaiulani Lunalilo and her botanist boyfriend Alejandro Verala, along with his infant son Angelo, lived together in a beautiful little blue beachside shack on one of the smaller islands of Sulani. The young couple are engaged and can't wait to spend the rest of their lives together in the seaside paradise. They had first met when Kaiulani visited her co-worker, Lucas Pointer's home. Lucas ran a hippie commune, Ohana Hale, and a then recently widowed Alejandro and his newborn son had been staying there because his mother, Nina, was dating Lucas. The old man had invited the Veralas to join his community and had in fact been hoping to bring Kaiulani into the fold too. But things had worked out differently. Instead of moving into Ohana Hale and becoming a member of their commune, Kaiulani had fallen in love with Alejandro and had he and his young son move into her home. It was by far the most unexpected yet fantastic thing that had ever happened to Kaiulani, and she had never been happier before in her entire life. That was what made the idea of Pastor Ramor's complimentary, yet compulsory, premarital counselling sessions such a silly idea to her. She understood that he felt an obligation to ensure that the marriages he performed were going to be successful ones. But Kaiulani and Alejandro already lived together. Marriage was just a formality. Alejandro said much of the same thing to the pastor during their private meeting. Along with sharing the care of his young son, Kaiulani and Alejandro had been living in sin for almost 2 years now, and they knew each other through and through. Alejandro had been married before. This wasn't his first rodeo, and he knew what he was doing. Pastor Ramor was 63 years old and had been married for 43 of those years to his beautiful wife. He liked to get to know the young couples he was officiating for, even if only for a few weeks, invite them to dinner, and try to impress upon them the true commitment they were making here. 2 years was nothing, barely a blip. Kaiulani appreciated the pastor's concern, but honestly, she knew all that, and she was quite certain that Alejandro did too. That was the whole point of getting married. Life on this planet is so chaotic and unpredictable. Nothing is guaranteed. But by joining together as a couple and a family, they were declaring for each other, whatever that may look like, for as close to forever as they could manage. Kaiulani's impassioned speech was as heartwarming and sincere as it was convincing. Pastor Ramor rarely refused to wed couples anyway, but after a spiel like that, he would never dare to. Instead, he agreed to wed Kaiulani and Alejandro just as soon as they could finish organising all the other details. A few weeks beforehand, Kaiulani and Alejandro had gone to Tartosa to explore the area and get a head start on things. Kaiulani had purchased her bouquet, rainbow roses, and ordered an extraordinarily expensive black and silver hexagon wedding cake, which was due to be delivered straight to the reception hall. They had been waiting for Angelo to be old enough to participate in and hopefully remember the ceremony. Angelo had no memories of his mother Dominique, and so it was important to Alejandro that his son did not forget any more important moments. But as the milestone of his birthday passed, the wedding day came closer and closer. They just had to pick their wedding party now, a decision Alejandro had had absolutely no trouble with. He had first met Lucas Pointer during the depths of his despair after the death of Dominique, and the old man had taken him on like a surrogate son instantly. There was no one else Alejandro wanted as his sim of honour. Their choice of flower pal was also obvious. Besides the fact that they knew no other children, Aliana Levesque had performed the duty at Nina and Lucas's wedding the year before, and had had her heart set on taking the role on again ever since she heard of Alejandro's engagement. Kaiulani's sim of honour was a less obvious choice, at least to Alejandro. He hadn't realised it before now, but his wife-to-be didn't really seem to have many friends her own age. Even before he and his infant son had moved in, Kaiulani had always been a bit of a loner, and she had no real family left. The closest she had was her ex-foster daughter. Sunflower Andrews was 17 now, but she'd only been 15 when she had stayed with Kaiulani, who had found the teenager sleeping on the streets of San Mishono and insisted the young girl come home to Sulani. Kaiulani had been really too young for the responsibility she'd taken on, and it hadn't worked out, but the two girls had parted on good terms. Looking at her young friend now, Kaiulani almost thought of her more like a little sister than anything else, and what better sim of honour than a sister? They had Sunflower over to dinner to ask her, and introduce her to Alejandro and Angelo as well. She had grown up a lot since moving away to Glimmerbrook, and Kaiulani was glad they'd reconnected. Finally, the big day was here, and Kaiulani stood before a full-length mirror in the back of the Newcrest United Church, hoping that Alejandro would like her dress. Kaiulani had chosen the gown based on their shared love of gardening, and with embroidered flowers studded all the way down, it was truly stunning. It was a beautiful, brisk spring morning, with periwinkle blue skies and birds twittering softly in the background, as first Aliana and her flowers, and then Kaiulani in her flowery dress, walked slowly down the aisle. Not for the first time in her relationship with Alejandro, Kaiulani almost felt like she was floating in a dream. So perfect was this moment. Alejandro felt the same way. Kaiulani was his fairy tale island princess, now his queen, and although he didn't know what he'd done to deserve her, he could not wait to spend the rest of his life with her, building a home and family together. She was everything he'd never known he wanted until he met her, and he loved her so much. Everyone said afterwards what a beautiful wedding ceremony it was. Pastor Ramor had been inspired by the depth and passion the young couple had shown him in their premarital counselling sessions, and had outdone himself with his own opening speech before the vows, which they had written themselves, were spoken, and the pair were finally declared man and wife with a passionate public kiss. They held the reception at a separate location, a fancy hall in Tartosa that specialised in wedding events, and it was everything Kaiulani had planned and hoped it would be. She had always had certain ideas about how she wanted to do things, and although planning it all had been stressful at times, it had been worth it in the end to get the wedding story she dreamed of. And that brings us to the end of Chapter 6 of Conservationist Kaiulani of Sulani. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can tune in soon to hear the next chapter. And hey, maybe think about sharing my channel with a friend. Or don't. It's your life. Anyway, bye.